Hey, everybody. Hey, Andy. Long time no see. We haven't done this in like 3 weeks. It's been crazy.
Have you seen I've changed my thing at the
Yeah,
bottom?
you did, but now your
Yeah.
microphone's not working like it was a few minutes ago.
Oh,
I
isn't
think
it?
it get,
Okay, that
yeah,
might
I think
be.
it's going through your headset.
I
Um,
think you are right. Not just a pretty face, is
there
that?
you go. There you go.
Yeah,
You're good.
perfect.
You're good. Yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy. So 2 weeks of travel, back to back conferences. That is a bit much. I don't know that I want to do that often if I could avoid it. As you can hear in my voice, I've got a little bit of a cold still. It's kind of gone away now, but about the last day of the second conference is when I started feeling like pretty crappy. And my flight home, I felt bad for the dude sitting next to me because I was just blowing my nose the whole way back, and
Nice.
yeah, I laid up the whole weekend. This whole past weekend, I was laid up with a cold, but it's about gone away now. But
How long was the flight back then? Was it a long one or was it
no,
relatively?
that Florida trip is nice and quick. I think I have two flights because I have to get a connector, but I think each one is about. I think the first leg is maybe an hour and a half, and the second one is like 50 minutes. So it's just a layover, right?
Nice. But you have to
So
get connected from pretty much everywhere, don't you?
I do. I live in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of for that reason I love it, but for that reason it's difficult. Now getting in and out of my airport here because it's so small, it's nice and fast. People are super friendly. I don't deal with it. I don't get the disgruntled government employees like you do at the big city ones. But
Yeah,
um,
that's it. Yeah.
so hello to the community. It's been a while. It's been a few minutes. Yeah, our special guest. I said special guest. It's Andy, our CCO. Uh,
Again. Yeah.
well, to be fair, the whole story is we had a guest who couldn't make it, unfortunately, again, and didn't find out until kind of late in the game. And then it was, do we have Andy? Do we have York? We're not sure who is going to have the availability, but Andy was a little more open than York's schedule. York is to the wall with work, which is great, but it's also time consuming. And to pull him away for a town halls, it can be sometimes a bit of a challenge having code switch that fast. But and then Andy and I like to talk anyways, so
Exactly. Yeah. And it's good as a catch up for the project, what we're doing, some inside track info.
yeah.
Um,
And
I
you
think
actually
that,
did some travel too, so we'll touch on that as well, right? And get
yeah,
the community updated on that. So for those people who are tuning in for the very first time, they don't know what YOM is. Real quick, what YOM is: we are a decentralized or a distributed cloud gaming network, pixel streaming network. We allow Unreal projects to stream from our network to any URL inside of Telegram. Like we can stream an Unreal project in Telegram, and the whole point of all this is to build the 3D internet in an affordable way. We do all this pixel streaming at about 95% lower cost than what you pay on Amazon, which is, again, immediately a big, everyone's eyes opened up big and wide when I talk about it at these conferences. The cost saving is massive because we don't have a big server building. We don't buy time off of Amazon the way that other decentralized platforms do it. We've built a network, a cloud gaming network on the backs of gaming rigs around the world. So if for those people who have a gaming rig at home and they want to earn passive income with it, they put their rig on our network when they're not using it, and we pay them to use their rigs to stream the content to all the URLs and anyone who's playing the games. We're able to do this in a secure way because we don't install software on somebody's home gaming rig. We don't ask them to partition part of their hard drive for us. We do it in a very secure way with a device that we send out. And our alpha test network is live. If you're in Western Europe or East Coast of the United States and you go to our website, you can play the games. We're expanding that network now. I just spent the morning, Andy, talking with the guys, looking through the list of people who apply. We had over 400 people apply, which is
that's
amazing.
brilliant. Really
Yeah, but
good.
for only for not nearly that many seats, right? Because again, we're trying to scale appropriately. But we do look like we're going, and this next wave is going to give us coverage just about everywhere in the world of the decentralized network. Now, we can get worldwide coverage anyways because we can partner. We have lots of partners who have got node services for us that we can partner with, and we're expanding into those as well. But that retail level, which is the least expensive way for us to do it, looks like we're going to have worldwide coverage in about 2-3 weeks. So pretty good.
Very cool.
All right, so let's go through some updates for our community, people who are paying, who tuned in to hear what it is that we've done in the past. We've had 3 weeks worth of these. This would be 3 weeks worth of work that we have to go over. So it's been quite a bit, and I've got a lot of technical stuff, and then you can jump into the business stuff that you've been working on. So on the technical side, so I've got these over here. Let me bring them. So my eyes aren't going all the way over there. So the platform's expanded, right? We've added 4 games to the website, so now we have 4 different experiences. We were able to get the device in Uruguay up and running, which was, again, our first South American node, which is awesome. This guy's been waiting. That was such a story to get the device to him from here. Ended up being a big rigmarole. I think it took him over 30 days to get it, but now it's there and running, and it's awesome. And we've enabled desktop game support with the virtual keyboard, so that's kind of helpful as well for any of the games that require a keyboard. A big piece of the infrastructure optimization. So if you've been running a test node, you know this already, but most of the community didn't know. In the very first implementation, we were not doing dynamic game runtime. In other words, the machine was running the games all the time as soon as we loaded the game onto the unit. And this was to make the load time go as soon as you hit the website that you're starting to play. So we've changed that now. We're still able to get you pretty instant uptime to start playing, but the games aren't running the full time. What that means is it's a lot less costly in electrical costs for people who are running a node, which was a big win for us. So that has been added. This is it's part of the intelligent power management system, right? Again, this allows the host to scale to perform only when players are connected, right? And this is, again, it's part of the power saving mode. And then we've improved the player routing to avoid any non-operational nodes. Basically, the orchestrators now has more functionality or more robust functionality to check and see each node is running or not running, and then direct the players to the proper node. In our testnet improvement, so testnet is live, as I said. We've done some more stabilization to improve the performance. Implemented the automatic payout. Now, this is, again, a big piece of the puzzle, right? But since we're paying users to let us use their machine, we need that whole system to be automated, and that automation has gone into effect, which is, again, another big win. And we've updated the checker app based on the latest findings, right? We've had this whole part of this testnet is, get a small amount running, find out where we're deficient, or find out where the improvements need to be made. Checker app was one of them, and we've made some improvements there. The last bit is the enhancements. So we've also updated our monitoring capacities to watch the node operation. The orchestrator, again, has more monitoring capabilities. We've upgraded support to include engine to UE 5.5, right? We were at the last, if you were with us before, only up to 5.4. We're now up to 5.5. And of course, just in time for them to release 5.6. So that's going to be in the backlog for the next go around. And then we've also introduced it, and people in our community know this already, or if you don't know, you should know, that you have the ability to view your bridged transactions, to look at your, the bridge tokens, because everyone's waiting to see, if they're forgetting which wallet they put it in or how much they put in. You can now look at that. Again, if you haven't found out yet how to look at your bridge tokens, please jump into the Discord channel, ask the mods. They'll bring you the information there. I'm sure it's also in our website. That is all the technical stuff. Andy, I'll throw it over to you. Now, while I was traveling, you traveled as well, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, just on the technical stuff, sure. I mean, what, and you were at Unreal Fest, which we'll talk about, Unfest rather, we'll talk about that in a bit, won't we? But one of the things I noticed, and some of this, I think Jorah was sharing with me, and I'm never going to pronounce this right, but it's Gerstammsplatt, which it must be a German word, but it's basically this ability now, the new Unreal has, instead of having to have an iPhone to do live link, you can basically just get any phone whatsoever, scan what you want, and basically rebuild it in Unreal Engine. And I've seen some of the videos of it. Have a look if you haven't already. We can post you some in our Discord and Telegram chats. But it's crazy. I mean, what it allows us to be able to do, and what it allows other people to be able to do is first of all, create new kind of experiences. The second update, which again isn't an update for us, but it's an Unreal update, and because we are Unreal, really, it just creates, it enables other people, studios, etc., to build a lot better. There is an AI piece, and I don't know if you know this, Jeff, actually, because I only found out this morning. There's an AI tool now within blueprints within Unreal, where you can basically say, read my blueprint and solve where the problems are. Do you know that?
Oh yeah. All the stuff was at Unfest. I mean, it was.
Of course, yeah. Sorry, it's great. Sorry, I'm ruining the story, aren't I? I'm like, look what I've heard. But anyway, I'll stop there. I mean, just picking on two pieces for us is the business piece and the fundraising piece. So, obviously from a business perspective, we are continuously talking to new organizations, about partnerships. We're being very picky on who we partner with, which is why you won't see hundreds of partnerships being announced every week. But when you see them, they're really serious ones. So again, we signed an MOU with a very big studio last week, which I can't even give more. You know what I'm talking about, Jeff. But it's a bit of a game changer from that side. So that's a really interesting one. There's virtually all the layer ones we're talking to that are gaming orientated. We're not really bothered with, you know, DeFi, etc., because it's not our bag. But the gaming layer ones we're talking to about integration of their wallets and tokens into YOM, which again will enable us to bring in all their games as well. There is Layer Zero, which we met when we were in Dubai, which we're having multiple conversations with as well, because we like those guys. And things like that are where we're aiming our business at, as opposed to pounding out meme coins that we're, you know, talking to, and that's it. And on the fundraising piece, that's going pretty well. We're talking to a lot of tier one VCs at the moment, a lot of ultra high net worth individuals. And actually, as a note on that, I was in Utrecht. It was last week, wasn't it? Yeah, it was last week. Yeah, for 2 or 3 days with an investor. And obviously, we all sat down with the team, and he went through lots of like, how does this work? The guy is a PhD mathematician who works for a company that effectively they do really complex micro transactions and micro processing over very short time frames, which is effectively what our orchestration model is. Now, he was so excited by it. He was like, this is great. So it's really nice as a non-technical person, and Jeff, I'm sure you're the same. It's really nice for a non-technical person when someone who is technical comes. I was just reading some of the stuff in the background there. Anyway, we'll answer the questions in a bit, but really nice when someone comes in who actually really gets the technology, but from a real world perspective, in a several hundred million turnover business, and goes, right, okay, I get that. That's why that is. Oh, that's how we do it here.
When smart people come in and look at our stuff and talk to our smart people, and they all start nodding their heads in agreement, it's a very good feeling for me as a guy who's not as technical minded. I'm sure that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
Now, did they talk time travel this time?
What's that? Sorry.
Did they talk time travel this time, or did Yort stay away from the time travel?
Fortunately not. Fortunately not. I was going to say that talking about the guy that does talk about time travel and talks about quantum mechanics and all that kind of stuff. That's a really interesting one as well. We're starting to get lots of introductions to very big, both gaming studios, pixel streaming businesses, and more kind of general real world businesses. And I think those, again, I'm sure people understand this, but if you don't, the problem with crypto is it's like when moon. When blah, 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 when, and everything's got to be tomorrow. Now, everybody wants everything tomorrow, but unfortunately in the real world and in the crypto world, really, it's about chipping away at the block, isn't it? It's about, stepping forward, 1 foot at a time and making sure that you can deliver and making sure that you can push the boundaries of what you're doing, not tomorrow.
That'll lead a little bit into my what I did notice at Bitcoin 2025, but I don't want to jump on that just yet. Anything else, Andy? Go ahead.
The only other thing is I was going to say on the travel stuff, and again we'll probably have another AMA or town hall before then. But there's a hell of a lot of travel for us all over the next 3 months, and it's all about rounding up customers, rounding up studios, getting that next step sorted. I mean, we're going to Cologne at the end of August. There's something crazy like 1.5 million people go to Cologne for Gamescom.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about that, at least if we're guessing on estimates of numbers about how many people have PCs, how many are, mobile gamers, there's going to be half of those people, probably however many, 750,000 people with gaming PCs. So again, we're hitting these people hard. We're doing. I'm in Dev. It's called Dev Brighton, and it's basically a festival. It's a conference for game devs and game studios. So it's literally all the people that we're talking to. And that's it really for for me as an update.
All right, very good. Let's jump into what I did back-to-back weeks of travel, because and for everyone sitting at home or watching the video, Andy and I haven't really gone through this whole. I said what I do is I take notes the entire way through the conference. These guys have access to the notes, but it's not going to make much sense. Much of it is shorthand, taken so I can remember when I get home all the things I did and all the people I met. So let's put a little bit of meat on those bones, Andy. The first thing I would say, so the first travel was 2 weeks ago. I went to Bitcoin 2025, and that was in Las Vegas. Not my favorite city. I apologize to people from Vegas. It's just not. I mean, I'm a small country mouse who lives in the middle of nowhere, and for a couple of times I had to make phone calls while in Vegas or at a conference, and I'm like, all right, I got to find a quiet place. There's no such thing as a quiet place in Vegas. And most times I had to run all the way back up to my room just to get a quiet space because everything's noise in that town. I would say the conference was the year before last, right? Or, last year's anyways, was in Nashville. And again, that actually was a much nicer city. I would say the crowds for the two were comparable. I wouldn't say that there was any kind of massive, more people this year than last year, but each one was massive, right? The amount of people who attend these conferences is just astronomical. Like again,
do you know the numbers? Do you know how many people go?
I don't. That's a good question. I should probably get final numbers to see what they say. But the U.S. is making, since last year, anyways, when the administration changed and they started saying, no, we're going to support the crypto community. You're seeing more and more people come in. This conference was a lot of the talks were about institutional investors and companies adding Bitcoin to their ledger, to their holdings as a hedge against the deflationary dollar. And more companies are doing it. Stripe was a big one that was announced. Like they're going to get involved in the Bitcoin game.
Funny enough, Stripe just bought today. They bought a crypto wallet integration business.
Yeah, so, yeah. They're saying no. We want to be part of this ecosystem, which is again good for all of us, right? I think because I'm American centric, I think that this is part of the thing that makes Andy laugh at me all the time. But until our economy gets on board, I think Bitcoin will win either way. I think it's just a faster path when the United States gets behind it. On the flip side of all this, though, I went there representing YOM and met with the investors who had asked that we come out and meeting investors face to face is so much better than having a video conference, right? It's much better. And I think that they appreciate it. I know that I appreciate it. We get a real sense of a person when you're sitting down having a meal with them than you do just over a video conference. So that was great. I met the guys that asked us to come out. But I think overall, it was not a lot of investors who were looking for protocols like ours or projects like ours. Most of them were just like, how do I get involved in the Bitcoin scene, or how do I get involved in the mining scene? It wasn't investor wise. I think we do better at, like, say, token 2025 or a 2040 or
2049.
Yeah, 2049. We do better there. But again, this was good because we were invited to come out. I would say if you go into any of these conferences, be sure to check all the side events. I was at the DNA House, which is, they always put on a great show, right? And they did like 2 days of just go to they rented out a restaurant for 2 days straight. Couple of key moments there. Vivek Ramaswamy was there, and I didn't get to see him because his bodyguards are 6'8" and just thick gentlemen. And if you tried to get anywhere close to the guy, he was just surrounded by a cloud of really big dudes. So I know he was there. He gave a talk, but his bodyguards are super impressive, intimidating, which is, I guess, what you want from a bodyguard, right? That was kind of funny. And then they also had a talk by, am I getting the name right? Brian Johnson? Am I getting the name right? The longevity.
Brian Johnson, the hacker, the health hacker.
Yeah, the health hacker. Right. The guy who checks every
biohacker. That's it, not health hacker.
That was great. And people were like, well, why is that important for a blockchain talk? And it maybe not so much important for the blockchain talk, but it was good because it gave the people, I was sitting at a table full of people, and it gave us things to talk about before he came on stage and after he left. And, a large part of when you go out to these conferences is meeting people. I ended up sitting next to, the guys that we're talking to now about using their payment system. And I had no idea it would have been something useful to me until we started talking, and we probably wouldn't have had any of that conversation if Brian Johnson hadn't taken the stage and gave us a reason to start talking. So anyways, that was, I think, the big things. Any questions you have about, Andy, about what I saw.
No, what did you? Well, yeah. What did you know? I'm going to ask you. What did you pick up from Brian Johnson? So, what are you going to alter with your life to make
two things that
longevity? Yeah.
All right, it's going to get a little crass, so buckle in, everybody. The two things he talked about, and it really was one related to the other. Sleep, super important. It's like if you're not doing it correctly, he has a whole routine. He stops eating 6 hours before he goes to bed at night. He doesn't go anywhere near anything with blue light, like a screen, for at least an hour before bed. Reads a book and that kind of thing. So that was the important piece. And going into that, men and women both, if you're not getting wood at regular intervals overnight while you're sleeping, then there's something wrong with the circulatory system. You've got to have that looked at. It is a telltale sign of your health.
Do you know the best way to get that is to go vegan?
I don't know about that.
He
didn't say anything about that.
Vegans are the studs of the
Sky and pepper's supposed to help. I know that much.
Yeah, you got to watch the Game Changers movie. That was
okay.
That's the one to watch. Netflix Game Changers.
All right.
But no, I wonder, and I do get you about Brian Johnson and the question about how does this fit into blockchain. But I think he's a tech entrepreneur, and part of this biohacking, if we're going to live for longer, we need to have different ways of earning revenue, different ways of thinking. And actually, if I'm going to be frank, whether you go vegan, which I think he is, and he goes all this kind of full on testing or not, the kind of mindset that fits into a crypto mindset also thinks in a wider mindset like Brian Johnson. So there's going to be so many people who have small-minded thought processes around crypto and blockchain more generally, and then they'll have exactly that same thinking about biohacking. But again, with all these things, there is really in depth, i.e., DeFi or something like that, and then there is more periphery type stuff like Bitcoin, which is effectively digital gold, in my opinion. So again, Jordan will argue, but there you go.
It's the power of the heretic, right? I forget who said it at first, but if you every society needs their heretics, right? Because the heretics force it to grow. They're the ones who look at the current way of things work and go, "That's not right." And certainly, he's one of those. I think the other big takeaway I should mention is when he talked about things like going vegan or cold tanks or saunas, he said all those things that you think are great, they probably are great, but if you should be measuring your before and after to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do for you, or maybe you're not doing it correctly. So he didn't want to throw his weight behind any one protocol. He just said try any protocol, but make sure you measure, because I think that's his claim to fame, right? He measures everything.
Okay. Yeah, and don't buy his olive oil because it's €20 for €5 olive oil. Don't get suckered by his marketing stuff. That's the other point. But anyway, good stuff. Mate, that sounds brilliant. And I've never been to Vegas, so even though it does sound as though it might be a bit intense, I definitely I'd fancy that.
I think I would enjoy going if I went, like if I brought my wife with me and we were signed up for a bunch of shows, because they probably have all kinds of great concerts and things like that. That would have been different than don't gamble at all, and just the noise of a casino, which I had to walk through several of them. It's just too much, I don't need that kind of stimulus in my face. Cool, but let's jump into Unreal. That's actually that was one that I think of the two. That was the one to me that ended up being the most exciting. It was packed full of information. Unreal, the next generation of Unreal is, everything about the current Unreal is awesome, but the next generation is even more cool. They're doing things like, let me make sure I go in the right order. Hot take. This is a better conference for us, right? I ended up running into a whole bunch of people that I had worked with in the past. Two of my former bosses, a couple of my other, a couple of friends who some I planned to meet and some I didn't. I had no idea we're going to be there, and just ran into them and had great conversations. So again, for us, I think it's a better conference to go to. Met up with some really big players whose names I can't tell you, but we exchanged information. I would say if you Googled their names, you would find these people pretty easily, but that's the only hint I'm going to give. And those conversations are just getting started, so don't look for kind of quick announcement about it. Learned a lot. So spent a lot of time watching and seeing what was going on in 5.6. Things like MetaHuman being embedded into the new version, right? So in 5.6 now, MetaHuman is not an add-on; it's part of the engine. And the demos for MetaHuman, so they can do facial expression capture off of a normal webcam. I mean, they weren't using anything special, just a normal webcam. And the same thing with body tracking. They're doing off of a normal webcam. I think AI is doing all the assistance now. Fingers weren't exactly there yet. There was a lot of like hands moving like this, but I mean, they're gonna get there. It's getting that much closer. And when I had the guy walk me through how to customize a character through the editor for MetaHuman, I mean, I came home and downloaded 5.6. I don't do a lot with Unreal really, but boy, doesn't going to one of those conferences make you feel like you want to do it. So that was big. And then the other big one was UEFN, all the Fortnite editor, Fortnite creation stuff. That was a lot of the talks had to do with that. So that was it was a lot of conference chatter about creating your own games inside of the Fortnite editor. The way that the whole conference was set up, Andy, I think you'd appreciate this. So oh, I got to tell that story too. I almost forgot to tell the story. So, they do the kickoff session, and it's online. You can see it. It went for like an hour and a half, or about an hour and 50 minutes. And at the very end, Tim Sweeney gets on stage and he tells everybody, yeah. Well, I mean, such a nice guy. Or again, I don't work for him, so maybe if I worked for him, I wouldn't think he's such a nice guy. But to look at him and everything, he's such a nice guy. I think what was funny was he ended his speech with the, "Hey, be sure that you talk to other people at the conference." Because again, we're so many engineers and game developers. Well, they're shy, so they don't necessarily know. They need the encouragement of just really to say, talk to the people around you. And what they do is they arrange for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the convention hall. They pay for the whole thing; it's catered, and they have a big seated area set up with a bunch of tables, and they get you a little line, and then you just go and sit down at any table that looks like people who might want to talk to, or you might want to talk to, and have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. With people, which was great. That's where I met a lot of people, right? I sat down with the guy from the Epic store. That's how that conversation got started. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I sat down next to a guy whose company does architectural stuff, which is, again, one of the areas that we can assist with, pixel streaming architectural stuff. Met another guy who does the same type of thing, but for automobiles. So a lot of places to be social that were kind of engineered. They kind of forced you to be social, but it's kind of what they encourage you to do anyways. I think that they've got a really good vision for how to build a community of developers. So I've been talking a lot, Andy. Why don't you go ahead?
Mate, no, I was going to say it's really interesting because obviously Unfest is in Sweden, in Stockholm, in September, I think. And I think we're going there. I'm not sure exactly who's going or not. But
so that was another actually thing. So I ran into a couple of people who were international. And I said, I said, well, why wouldn't you just go to the Stockholm one? They're like, no, the USA one is the biggest one, right? So
really, okay,
interesting.
There. Yeah, and I think with those kind of things, like I went to the London Games Festival, and that was really small. But because it's small, sometimes you get really good results because there's not as many people there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether Unfest is as good here as it is in Vegas. Definitely.
No, it was not Vegas. This was in Orlando. Vegas was the Bitcoin one.
Sorry, of course it was. Yeah.
I would say this too. I was going to get this towards the end, but independent game developers, there really weren't that many studios, indie studios there. It was all like bigger studios who spent the money to send, 2 or 3 developers from the studio there. Most of the independent guys who were there were working with the Fortnite Fortnite creation engine. So I did not have a lot of conversations with indie studios, but the big ones again, and people that I worked with in the past that I completely forgot about. I'm like, oh, Greg, I used to work with you, didn't I? He's like, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. But I didn't tell you this story. I don't think I told you this story. So at the one session I was in, well, I should say, first of all, the big reveal was the new Witcher game, which looks amazing. And it turns out that was my buddy who gave the talk later in the day, couldn't tell me what it was working on because it was a big reveal at the keynote. So he worked on he's at Epic. He worked at the crowd system for, now they got set up. Basically AI controls the characters in the crowd really, really well. Like you can walk through the crowd and push people aside. And he was part of that crowd system. And he gave a talk about how that That's pretty massive. But at a different talk later on in the week, I had a coughing fit, and it was one of those ones where it says, we're live streaming this talk. So I was like, yeah, this is bad. So I got up to leave, before the talk was over because I didn't want to interrupt the whole thing. And I get out in the hallway, and it's pretty empty in the area because things are going on. And I see this guy walking around, looking at his phone, looking at the room numbers, and he's looking all kinds of confused. He looks a little bit panicked. And I come up to him as I get, I swear to God, this true story. It's Tim Sweeney.
No.
He's confused about where he's supposed to be. And there was a North Hall and a South Hall, and I think we were in South Hall, and he might have been trying to get all the way to North Hall, which is a long trek. You got to go all the way through the convention floor to get there. Anyways, he looked super confused and panicked. So I follow him, and he gets on the escalator, and I get right behind him on the escalator. And as we're going down, and I say to him, hey, Tim, thanks a lot for putting this on. It's my first Unreal Fest. It's pretty cool. He's a really quiet guy. He's like, yeah, you should have seen it about 20 years ago. It wasn't even close to this big. And he was just talking as he's going down the escalator. But then he scurried off. I let him. I didn't want to, hey, take a picture with me. I don't, because he was obviously. But in my head, I'm like, you're Tim Sweeney. Like, any place you're going, I'm pretty sure they're going to wait for you to get there, right? Unless you're going to meet the president, right? No one on the other side of that conversation is going to be like, oh, that fucking Sweeney's late again. No, it's going to happen.
Who cares? Do you know what I mean? They'll move the conference and 3,000 people somewhere else. But no, that's very cool. And again, I don't know if people really know what view people have of Tim Sweeney, but he's like the number one guy. Would you say he's the number one guy? I'd say he's the number one guy in gaming, really, isn't it?
I mean, he's certainly the guy who spearheaded the whole direction for the Unreal Engine, which, to my mind, and again, more people talk to, it's not even at Unreal Fest. It's just a premier engine for so many reasons, right? So he did a 4-hour interview with Les Friedman, who I have a hard time listening to because of his drone of his voice, but a 4-hour interview with Tim Sweeney, and it's very interesting because Sweeney's mindset, I think, is very similar to ours. He wants to enable independent. He just wants people to be able to make games with as few barriers as possible, and like we're kind of the same way. We want people to get their games out to as many people as possible with as few barriers as possible. That's what our network is about. And I mean, if I had more time and he wasn't so panicked, I'd have had that longer conversation with him. Like we're totally on the same page. I would say that the scuttlebutt is that he's got his mind laser focused for the metaverse. He wants persistent online worlds to happen. He thinks the Unreal Engine is going to get them there, and I absolutely agree. I think again they're not going to be able to afford to do it for a large. They're going to afford people who don't have the high-end gaming rigs to do it without a decentralized cloud like we're building. So all the synergies are there. But this is the other. I think the big takeaway for me. I told you that I was meeting up with my buddy who did cameras. He did the Unity camera system and sold that to Unity, and now he's building the same thing for Unreal, just better, right? For Unreal, and talking with them about integrating this into the next or into a version of Unreal coming out. Adam is a super smart guy. Like the company's called Black Eye Technologies. They're brilliant. You can look them up. And I was in his presentation as he was presenting to a couple of different studios and things. Even he, with all his connections inside of Unreal, and even though he's already sold the same or a similar system to Unity, even he's going to have to go through some, important gates to get his product sold to Epic. So when we get there, the community should recognize, boy, we opened up a lot of doors. The path to get built into, to partner up with Epic is not a simple knock on the door and say, hey, let's partner up. You really have to prove to them, right, do what you say you can do. But that shouldn't surprise you, I imagine, Andy.
No, but do you know the interesting thing that we didn't talk about is that there was a very surreal piece. So in Barcelona was Pocket Gamer. So I left, where obviously I'm in Barcelona. I left Barcelona to go to Utrecht to meet with the guys. You were in, obviously, Orlando. You were talking to two teams. One of them was the Epic team in Orlando, and the other team, which we can't mention the name of at the moment. And some of our advisors were in Barcelona talking to the exact same
companies.
Yeah. But like at different levels and different business. And we got like traction from both. So it feels like we're getting in front of the right people at the moment, doesn't it? And it feels like, and again, as I say, people see you at these conferences, and what I notice is they see you once, they see you twice, then twice, second time or third time, they're like, wow, yeah. And each time you get to know them better. And then it becomes this kind of roller, kind of stone rolling down a hill, doesn't it?
Yeah, when they see the YOM name or the YOM logo from several different sources, all kind of coming from different directions, that gives them the size of what we are and the traction that we have already, and kind of it's telling for them. Interesting though. So I did have, this is unscripted lunch, like it wasn't like a scheduled lunch, but I did sit down at, you know what I did the very first day at lunch when they served lunch. Everyone who's from Epic, again, this is just tip to Tim Sweeney and the Epic team. They're all wearing the same white Epic T-shirt, so these guys are from Epic, right? It's kind of a signal to say, hey, come talk to us. I took it that way, anyways. Cool. So I sat down with 3 guys who were in the Epic shirt because I'm like, I don't want to talk to the Epic guys, and that turned out to be the folks from the store. And we were talking about, and this is a very interesting thing. So different from Steam. Steam does have a try before you buy cloud. I don't know who. It's powered on Amazon. It's probably very expensive. Not every game allows for it, but the Epic Store doesn't have that at all. And I said to them, it's kind of strange to me that I didn't want to be mean, but Steam has that, and Epic Store doesn't have that. Try before you buy off of a cloud system yet. And like, no, we haven't even really, we haven't even chased that yet. And I'm like, well, over here, we can do that for you, which is how I exchange information with them. And again, your guys know the same way. So there is absolutely a need in Epic for what we've built. And because again, it's the most inexpensive way to do it. It's just a matter of getting through all those gates, all those hoops that we have to get through. But anyways, there was that.
I'm writing notes, by the way. Okay. Reminders for me to message the other guys that were in Pocket Gamer, say, don't forget to talk about this. Yeah.
And don't maybe helpful to throw in their face. Steam's doing it. Why aren't you guys doing it yet? Like, you don't want to be behind Steam. Come on. But that can come across me and like.
But I think that's the idea, though, isn't it? Epic want to be bigger than Steam, and at the moment, Steam are just nailing it. Because they were the first to market, and because they are so adaptable, so well known. They're 30% of the market or something like that, aren't they? I think.
Yeah, I think Steam is also though making some pretty solid missteps and doing things like I was just reading an article today where they will give you they will rebate you for an experience you play less than 2 hours if you're like, I played for less than 2 hours and I haven't even owned it for 2 weeks, so it's a rebate. Okay, well that sounds good if you're a player, but if you're a game dev who's made a small experience and you've sold a bunch of them, but then all of a sudden they're getting rebated because people finish the game inside of 2 hours, well now you're screwed out of a whole bunch of money. And it's really hurting the indie game market.
That makes sense.
And again, that's where we come in to help out. That's part of our where we're looking right is the indie games. Interesting enough. Let's see, what else would I not touch on? I'm looking at my notes over here. Oh, one of the other talks, Andy, was right down your alley. Is basically a transmedia talk.
Was it? Interesting.
These guys this is from the animation studio called Space Station Animation. They do A for Adelaide, which is a YouTube animated series, but they've done that exact thing. They've built the assets inside of Unreal to use for the animated little episodes, and then taking those same assets and putting them inside of games, which again is what we've said from the start. That's a very important play. People recognize that they can do that.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think that transmedia piece, this is one of the things that Epic seem to have really well. It's this, how do you move from being an animation to a game to a video to a real world experience to a merch store, all that kind of stuff. It's the Ready Player One, isn't it? It's like, that's the not the future necessarily, but it's definitely the way that some of the market is going.
Yeah, I guess we're not the only ones who think that way. There are other animation studios in the same mindset. What other piece should I tuck on? All right, again, gaming was not really the only industry there. There was, if you saw in the timer video that I set up, a couple of different automotive customizers, right? And these are really good for us because these are pixel streaming content that has to be live 24/7 on the automaker manufacturer's website, right? So you can go in and play with the car customizer as much as you want. But as far as I know, right now they're hosting on some very expensive pixel streaming system, and we have a better solution for them. So again, that's another market we'll definitely be looking into helping out. And And architecture, the same thing. There were architectural firms I told you that I met up with at that. Again, that pixel streaming the content. Architecture, to my mind, is a little bit weaker because I build the building, or I design. They design the building for their client. The client can go and look at it at any time they want to. But then once the client is sold on it, it doesn't stay up, right? Whereas a car is available for the whole year, and then the next year, the next version of the car gets posted, and the next year, so longer tail on the automotive stuff. But anyway,
although you've then actually got a potential secondary market, haven't you? So you build a house, you sell the house to either animators, or you sell it to game devs, as a real world house.
Yeah, I don't know if they think to do that. It's a good question. I wonder if those firms think to do that. I wonder if that's I'm thinking if an architectural firm builds a building for a client, I think the client might own that building.
Yeah, and actually, if you're spending the money, well, maybe you say this right. Would you want your house in Fortnite? I mean, I probably would.
Yeah,
I'd probably be like, yeah, okay, you can do it. Because it's quite cool. You go visit your own house, blah blah blah. But maybe. Right now, maybe if you're spending a lot of money, then you'd be like, no, I don't know. Again,
maybe it's just it'd be nice to see my house, clean all the time in a 3D world.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a wasp in here, and I'm just like, I watched it come in, and I was like, bloody thing, it's typical, isn't it? So if I jump all of a sudden, like I just did then, it's me panicking that the wasp has got me. But Jeff, this sounds great. It sounds like they're two very helpful conferences, and again, I know that if people go to conferences, they'll get this, I'm sure. But when you go to a lot of these, you start, really getting value from them. And I think it's all about this repetition that we're looking at.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing. I think when we get seen over and over and over again, and participating in all the conversations, and really to a person, there's not one person I don't explain. Oh no, we turned the one kid said, oh, it turns my computer into an Uber. I'm like, yeah, it turns your computer into an Uber. Like, so I didn't have to say it. He said it first. Not to a person. I've never heard anybody come out with me and say that's a horrible idea. Like, everyone's like, no, that's a great idea. Like, the idea of making money from your home system, everyone buys it immediately.
And if you look at Asia, for example, Asia's big on this cloud gaming space at the moment. Yeah. So we're not quite as fast on it in the Western hemisphere, but that's just a matter of time. But we will pick up there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this next wave is going to have a stack of. We got a stack from all of Southeast Asia. We've got a good chunk that are going to go out there this next time.
For the testing.
Yeah, for the testing net. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. That's great.
All right, Andy. I think that gets you up to speed on everything that I. Oh no. One more story, and it's a little off color, so you can go ahead and tell the kids to leave the room on this one.
Put your fingers in your ears if you're under 18. Basically, is that
it? Yeah, pretty much. So I'm in Vegas, and it's I got up early, still my body clock was East Coast time, so I'm awake at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I go to the gym. I come out of the gym. I call my wife, and I'm like, hey, I'm getting some coffee here in the lobby of the hotel I'm in. I won't tell the name of the hotel, but I'm at the hotel lobby. Out of the elevator from upstairs come 2 gentlemen and 3 ladies, and 2 of the 3 ladies are dressed obviously in the outfit from the night before.
Yeah,
and they're all 3 of them. They're sitting there talking, and I'm watching them talk and trying not to pay attention, not to leer. But the 3 ladies are getting closer and closer to each other as they're talking, and they're saying goodbye. And eventually, the goodbye is a very friendly goodbye for 3 ladies who are just friends with each other. Like, it was probably more than just a friendly goodbye. And the 2 dudes are like, just kind of they're watching, some big smiles on their face. So the 3 ladies say goodbye, and the 2 walk away, and I couldn't figure out what the whole connection was. But anyways, 6:30 in the morning in Vegas, this is the kind of thing you see.
It. The walk of shame, basically.
Yeah, a little bit. But they had no shame. They were all smiling and happy. I think they were not shameful at all about their walk home that night.
When in Vegas, what is it? What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Stays in Vegas, yeah. Except when some jackass like me goes and tells a story on the internet.
Yeah. You didn't take photos, no?
I didn't. I love me. Yeah. All right, brother.
We've got a couple of questions, haven't we?
Sure.
We've got Jarko 007. Awesome to be here. Yeah, awesome to have you here. We've got Adam Thiel. Again, let's go. Gaming party stuff. Well done. Right. We've got Frank, who's saying, I think what he's saying is, why do the YOM nodes or why are the YOM nodes so far away from today to go live? And I think this comes down to, well, there's a couple of bits here. I think we're doing stuff at the right pace and with the right transactions. So it may seem like a long way away, but technology like we're developing takes decades, and we're doing it a hell of a lot faster than that. The nodes will be live soon, but as they say, when soon? It's difficult to say.
We do talk about this all the time, right? We have to have a balance of nodes that are live and projects that are live. If we do too many nodes live without enough games, and the people who are operating the nodes aren't getting any kind of real yield, and they'll turn it off, and the network will, not make it. Or we have to sell more to newcomers, or allow those people to sell. We can allow those people to sell them to the aftermarket. That's fine too. But if we have too many games and not enough nodes going, then we have a lot of wait time, and we don't want that either. So, much of it is this one after the other, like stepping one step, then the next step, the next step, next step. And testnet is getting us in that first step where we get the testnet live, put some games on it, add some more to the testnet, and that allows more games to be confident. Okay, we can come onto it too. And then testnet goes into mainnet. And really, the only difference between testnet and mainnet is we're subsidizing the testnet to make sure that the testers, well, two things, right? It ensures that, or incentivizes them to stay on longer, and that they respond to our tech calls if we have to have a tech call. Hey, could you reboot the machine? That kind of thing, right? That's the testnet stuff. In mainnet, we start paying based on the hours that get pumped through your system, right? And that's, again, that it's almost better that we hold off until we have a lot of saturation of projects, games and otherwise, on the network before we go to mainnet. So, but I would say that and looking at the list of stuff that the tech team has accomplished in the past 3 weeks, everything we've done with testnet was done correctly. We learned exactly what we wanted to learn. None of this stuff would have happened if it was just me, you, and Ron having a node in our house. That wouldn't have been anywhere near as nice of a test as having 20 random people from random parts of the world. We learned about the internet connection speed in different countries, the different modem snafus that people have in different countries, and built changed the launcher to match all these different parameters, which is super important. So,
but this is you nailed it really, and that's the answer to Frank, isn't it? It's like if we went live, but also if we went live straight away, imagine going live straight away and you've got a million problems coming at you all at the same time. You have to scale in segmented orders. This is how project management works. This is how you roll out a network. I say the other argument is people say, well, roll it out and then sort the problems out after. But that's,
could you imagine trying to answer 1,000 tickets put in by people who are having UPnP issues? It'd have been a nightmare. Right.
Yeah.
Better that we have 20 people who have, and then have half of the people have a something like that. We can troubleshoot 10 people, right, and learn and then rebuild. And then it's anti-fragile, right? When we put it out there and it's broken, we build it a second version that's stronger than the first version, right? Because we fixed that broken piece. But that has to be done in steps, right? For the sanity of our tech team, we got to do that in steps so we don't drive our tech team into a wall.
Yeah.
Hope that helped, Frank.
The same calls over and over again. You want to alleviate calls. This is how you solve it, or you solve it from a technology perspective, or this is the answer because you've worked it out before, and life just becomes easier to scale. So, I mean, look, we've got 20 already. We'll have another 20 go live. We'll then do 300, as the next group, and then 1,000, 5,000, upwards from there.
Yeah. And pretty happy with the market warming up too. I mean, it's going in the right direction. I mean, not in the last 24 hours, but certainly if you look over the past 7 days, it's been going, with the way we want it to go. And that only just bodes well for us too. So
that sounds great.
All right. Ooh, pardon me.
Bless you.
I'll edit that out of the other version so people know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, thanks for that, Jeff. That's been brilliant and a great update as always. And nice. Although we do chat, we don't always get the time to chat about stuff that isn't like urgent and got to do straight away. That kind of stuff. Right.
Yep.
So yeah,
all right.
Great.
I'm looking for a really good sign off. I don't have a good enough sign off for us, but
we'll say thanks for what is it? Make it so normally something like that.
The one I just heard recently that I really like is tell somebody tonight that you love them.
Nice.
That's a pretty good sign off, isn't it?
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have to know them, or is it anyone? Just a random.
Tell your dog.
Love it. When in Vegas.
Right. Exactly. Good callback.
Love it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. See you soon.